My man, Ali Brown. We talk about Ali a lot. He's constantly talking about the engine, the utilization of GPUs and CPUs, render stuff, Vulkan, Gen 12, all the things. He's been the face of it, right? He is in 2025 talking about this stuff at CitizenCon, and here he is in 2021 at CitizenCon talking about this stuff. He is constantly engaging with the community in Spectrum. He's giving updates publicly. He obviously is very tied in with this and very passionate about it. Earlier this week, he popped in on 10pound42 stream to talk a little bit about the stuff that's been going on with rendering and the improvements coming into Star Citizen in 4.5. So somebody was lovely enough to summarize that here on the subreddit and type it out for all of us. And we are going to just kind of go over it today just to see what he said. I don't have any specific knowledge on this kind of stuff. I'm not a professional renderer myself. I leave that to the computers. I've just been following along, and maybe I can give some context where context is possible. So he said a couple things about the new settings that are coming into the graphics in 4.5. I'll show you guys these when we load into the game. There's a lot new graphic settings. It's going to give people a lot more flexibility, I think, to make the game run well for them. Currently, the fog is set to less than 600 meters, and all gas clouds are obviously all clouds. That was confusing for a little bit when they first started working on gas cloud tech. Fog quality controls the resolution of the volumetric texture, allowing for more detailed shafts of light. So higher fog quality means better lighting. Water simulation, the number of patches or areas of water that can be simulated simultaneously. That's actually very easy to show you guys kind of what that means. They showed that off. Oh, that was 2023 they showed it off. Here we go. The future of Star Engine. We had Will. Oh, look who's on the stage. Once again, right? But this one was actually presented by Will Water Guy, Moist Master, the River Dude, Planet Kid. I don't know what. Clearly there's water on his shirt. He's presenting to the sea, whatever you will. He has something to do with the wetness of Star Citizen. And during his presentation this year, he actually showed us the idea of how they have regions that detect the way that the water is simulated. And that's what lets them optimize it a little bit more, make it perform a little bit better.
Got different sizes going on. If you look at the shore there's a cluster of text. That is a whole bunch of other regions because there's some stuff floating there causing little ripples that we can't actually see.
So this is something that they designed to make the game run a certain way. And what it sounds like they've done now is they've given us the ability to define how big those zones are based on the quality that our own game can manage. So water simulation changes the patch area. Shader quality improves quality of things like parallax occlusion mapping and their shadows. Higher view distance adds slightly more CPU work, which is where the game struggles the most right now. All settings change immediately apart from the Vulkan or DX11, which requires restart. That's really nice. I hate it when you have to restart a game to get something to change. Ultra settings are targeting at cards with 20 plus gigabytes of VRAM. Those are all... What cards have that much VRAM? GPUs with 20 plus VRAM. It's like 50 series, 7900 XT. Oh, the 4090 does. Okay, 24 gigs. Let's go to Reddit. I trust Reddit a little bit more than Google's AI, which I guess is where they're getting their answer anyways. Yeah, these people are saying that a 3090 could do it. Okay. So, and that's for Ultra. I mean, if you could really run Ultra on this card, on this game with 3090, I guess that's not bad, but I'm not one to ask about that. Continuing on, these are quotes that he got from general information that came from Ali during the chat. A new menu system is coming, hence why this one is lacking things like tooltips. That's great, dude. The pause menu in Star Citizen is, I'd say, due for an update. Water quality won't really affect the quality of a single impact, but will limit the number of different impacts over a wider area. That makes sense looking at this. Obviously, the smaller cubes you have to simulate, the more detail you'll be able to get.
As you see, these scale properly. We can add the results from multiple sizes of simulation together, and they influence and interact with one another accurately. You see those big waves crashing over the little sim there.
Yeah, so that makes sense. Fog, for the most part, CPU is independent of graphics settings. Oh, sorry, for the most part, CPU is independent of graphics settings. Makes sense. No graphics settings, offload things to CPU. That's been a long-term misconception. long-term misconception was that my CPU was going to survive all of this, Ali. It needs help. I do hope this stuff helps. We'll see. We don't really have any fixed expectations on GPU side for Vulkan. It should mostly be the same, but different shader compiler and drivers mean we get lots of small differences. Okay, well, If we stick with Vulkan by default for 4.5, he's not 100% certain they will, which is interesting. Then we'd look to drop DX11 on the following major release or possibly the one after that. I'm guessing this is kind of like when they did object container streaming and you noticed the stuff over time as they built on top of it. As a reminder, CPU performance is always lower ahead of the full release because we leave debug code in there to help diagnose issues. Okay, we appreciate the information. One last thing he said here was that potentially frame gen is in the future, but not quite yet. Honestly, I want them to optimize the hell out of this before they get to frame gen. I appreciate a good optimized game, especially when you see a game like Arc Raiders come out. One more thing I wanted to touch on here before we moved on was the video I showed of him in 2021. During that update, he actually told us the roadmap for how this whole rollout was going to work. Now, I'm not gonna kill you with this. We've gone over it before, but I think it's important to just get another update whenever we go over Gen 12 and the rendering stuff that's changing. Get an update as to where we are in his whole lineup of how this update was going to go. Obvious things have changed since 2021, but I do think this helps add some context and at least helps to set for expectations for later.
After this, that's where we'll start seeing the public milestones, and the first of that will be 100% usage of Gen 12 and none of the hybrid approach. This will still be at DirectX 11, our current graphics API at this point. And then our second...
So that's where we are right now, I believe. We are using Gen 12. It's an option to use Vulkan, but it is not a requirement. So we can still use DX11.
Second milestone will be the Vulkan API release. That will be optional at first, and then mandatory.
Sorry, that's where we are now.
After we've removed all the bugs. And then a final milestone will be when we have performed the optimizations for multi-threaded. So that will only happen once the Vulkan is in place, and we can finally look at the performance on the final graphics API and optimize all the remaining code.
So that's kind of where we are. I think this has some multi-threading performance in it, but I do believe they're waiting to get rid of DX11 before they completely cut it out and do all the optimizations on DX12. So, or on Gen 12. So we're getting pretty close to the full rollout of this renderer, which they initially told us about 4 years ago. Again, adding to just how long-term a lot of the stuff that's happening right now has been, from engineering to Squadron 42, server meshing, Gen 12. A lot of this stuff is like long-term. It's good that it's finishing up right now. If you're just getting into Star Citizen, fantastic time to be doing it, to be honest, with this stuff kind of starting to wrap up. But we'll see where it goes from here. There's been an update on the renderer, on how Star Citizen's performance is going to be looking over the next who knows how long. And we'll keep updating on this probably once a quarter just to see how the performance is increasing. If you guys want to get a bigger update on this, I am going to try and have 10 Pound on soon, and we'll talk a bit about how performance has been going and what's being talked about here and engineering performance and whatnot. So keep an eye out.